something more about visual thinking and visual tracking in financial markets, in particular about the Fortis bubble. We are going to ask ourselves how it is possible that this bubble occurred and what the impact was of the stock crash on households that forged. Finally, Sarah is going to tell us the link between ratings and the Fortis bubble. But first of all, Matthijs is going to explain to us a little more about banking risks and bubbles in general.
Yes, before we take a closer look at the Fortis case, I'm going to talk about bank risks in general and the link between banks and bubbles. There are a number of risks for each bank, and how well these risks are managed and understood is very important. It's very, how should I say, it's very determining for the future of the bank and its profits. One of the main questions for a bank is how many capital they should hold. That is important to handle with several risks. Here you see a list of the main risks that are faced by a bank. First of all, we have the credit risk. That's a risk of loss arising from a borrower who does not make payments as promised. Secondly, we have the liquidity risk. That's a risk that a given asset or security cannot be traded quickly enough in the market to prevent a loss. Then we have a market risk. That is a risk that the value of a portfolio will decrease due to the change in value of the market risk factors. Then we have the operational risk. That's the risk arising from execution of a company's business functions. And finally, you have the interest risk. That's the risk that the bank may become unprofitable, like when interest rates are rising and a bank is forced to pay more on its deposits than it earns or it receives on its loans. So bank crisis has developed several times in the past when one or more of those risks have shown up in the banking sector as a whole. Now, I think it's important that these upcoming risks are detected, but I think this is as hard as detecting a bubble. In fact, the risks are like a kind of bubble inside the bank. On the internet, I found many discussions and theories around bubbles. They are important because we all know that a bubble can have catastrophic consequences, but we aren't able to avoid them. One of the statements I found on the internet was one from the economist Brad DeLong. He says, "I think there is no bubble, even though all the data says there is a bubble. I like my feet in both camps, so that when the bubble crowd is proved wrong, I won't be. If the system breaks, it is all economic theory on which the system is based that will get discredited." I think it's a good one, not that I totally agree with the statement, like there is a bubble or there is no bubble, but the fact that he doesn't try to tell us one truth. There is no solid definition for a bubble, and there's also no solid solution. And that's why I think this is one of the better statements. I'm sure, I'm convinced that we will have to deal with bubbles now and in the future. A bubble forms because because the rationality of participants is not common knowledge. An experimenter cannot convince the participants that all the other traders are rational. So if one agent or an agent believes that some of the other traders are irrational, he may, in the sense that they may make purchases at a higher price than the fundamental value, he may speculate in order to realize some gains. As soon as the speculative prices are going ahead, the speculative behavior is reinforced and prices will continue to rise. And that's exactly like what we have seen on the household price market in some countries. And that was one of the causes of the financial crisis. To end, I have a last comparison between the bubbles and banks. That's one that is given by Fisher and Kelly. They have shown that if two asset markets are in simultaneous operation, bubbles and crashes occur in both markets. And that's like what you have seen in the financial crisis. Not only crashes occur in both markets, but they also happen simultaneously. And a bank panic in one bank led in the crisis to many bank sufferance at the same time. And that's how Fortis also came into trouble.
I will now give you a short summary of the Fortis case. In fact, it all starts in April 2007, when Fortis stepped into a consortium with the Royal Bank of Scotland and Banco Santander to take over the Dutch bank ABN AMRO. Fortis would have to pay 24 billion euro for their share in ABN. Therefore, they needed to raise their capital. So in August 2007, Fortis shareholders agreed in a capital raise of $13 billion euro. Excuse me. So in January 2008, rumors came that Fortis had solvability problems caused by the deal. They would not pay out the dividend of end 2007, and they needed to do another capital increase. These rumors were being denied by hard-placed Fortis people, but the Fortis share dropped remarkably. The results of the first quarter of 2008 weren't good, and the share kept on dropping. And in May 2008, Fortis announced that they had to reinforce their capital buffers by doing another capital increase, not pay out an interim dividend, and dividend in the form of extra shares, and the sale of non-core business activities. This was a sign that didn't look good for Fortis. After the fall of Lehman Brothers in September 2008, Fortis was a real problem, and it ended on its lowest stock price since 1995. The government of the Benelux started an emergency plan